Thursday. It's a war room night. It's House Divided here on Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Chad Hastings. We're going to be with you, I don't know, hour-ish. As if that ever happens. We'll be with you for like the next 80 minutes if things go according to the usual plan. Click the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, get notifications, and comment in the comments section. And if you're here with us live, you are in the right building. If this isn't the right building, you don't want to be right.
That is it.
Welcome into the Specs chat. Leave us your messages. Give us your super chats. Participate in the show. We've got kind of an unusual topic and probably a conversation related to Texas football that you haven't heard before. So kind of looking forward to the show. Plus, if you stick around for buy or sell, I have a buy or sell question for Chad that involves both Jesus and Zeus. So we're going places today, baby.
That's exciting. That is exciting. That is great.
Also, air conditioning for the record, should you want to stick around for the end.
This is a good way to start. Sark's secret sauce, he can recruit C. L'Oreal. Nate, good job. That's a good way to start. Good way to start. We will be talking about Steve Sarkisian today and some of his skills. It will have nothing specific to do with his wife, but some of his skills will be discussed on today's show. Big recruiting weekend is coming up this weekend, but catch today. It's a little bit of a stat dive with some numbers that you looked up. First off, bravo in advance for all this stuff you looked up. It's going to create what I know we believe is an interesting conversation. Let's hope the people think so too. But it does speak to what Sark is, kind of the world Sark is living in right now and how he's navigating.
So full transparency, I didn't do 20 years of deep dive data seeking in one like try. I've done this report like 4 or 5 times. So all the heavy lifting is done when I have 20 years of data. All I have to do are the most recent years of data. So I don't want to make it sound like I did manual labor to put all of this together. Although if you add the 4 or 5 years that I've done this individually, it's probably some work. Well, I guess I'll put it to you like this, Chad. I have this resource page on orangebloods.com, and what it has are links to all of the important stuff I've ever done. So if you want to see my 1997 recruiting rankings, it's there. If you want to see my profile on Kyle Flood's history as a developer of talent, it's all there. I have done these attrition breakdowns. The most recent one I had done was 2021, so it was fairly recent. But I've known for months that it needed to be done. It's like, hey, is this the day that I want to do the attrition breakdown? Nope.
Not today. Someday, not today.
Not today. But I mean, it's like somebody who knows they need to clean their room, and at some point you say, okay, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to do it today. And as it turns out, updating the attrition breakdown, which is like a 20-year summary of numbers to include the most recent years, tells a pretty historic story about the Texas football program that I think I thought I knew, but I hadn't known it in such specific terms. And it's pretty crazy that you can, by the time I was done, you can see a real correlation to why Texas has gone from not making a bowl game 2 seasons ago to being in the playoffs last year and a semifinalist. Pretty clear that it's not the only secret sauce that Steve Sarkisian works with, but it is a secret sauce. It's been the ability to get rid of players that for the most part aren't playing and replacing them with really good players. And it's just been one gigantic flushing of the system, cleansing, if you will. And I think it's where we are today. This discussion is really a big part of it.
Yeah, and folks are jumping in the chat here. I think it's going to be an interesting discussion to get into. We're going to get into some of the number crunching. We're working up towards already 200 folks in the Specs chat. So thank you for that. Before we really dig in here, let's give Specs their love. Weekend's coming up. You might need to stock up. Here's Lisa with a reminder.
Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
Yes, indeed. Shout out to Specs. By the way, let's just get this out of the way because I'm with CJ. I never understand why more people don't hit the like button. CJ, I'm with you, but I was one of those people. I'm stingy with a like button. So I get it, but we have encouraged folks to go ahead and like the show. If something weird happens and we piss you off right at the end, like if catches buy or sell that involves Zeus pisses you off to a certain
Jesus,
you can unlike it at that point. We're encouraging you to like it now. That's what we're encouraging you to do. So CJ, thank you for that support. We will hope that it happens. Real quick buy or sell from the people catch just to get us kind of stretched out here. William says Tennessee and A&M for all the marbles, buy or sell. That increases the chances of David returning.
Sell.
I agree.
I mean, I think everybody realizes we're too far down the road, that the alternative is just a bad idea for a lot of reasons that I don't think they can afford. You can't let the program stumble too much. It's in a bit of a stumble. The next layer of stumbling means it might take you longer to recover. I think there's a little bit of urgency on this.
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, Catherine is on the record rooting for the other UT in that championship series. All they have to do, catch, is just dial that orange up just a little bit from Burnt to Knoxville Bright, and they'll be ready to go.
These two teams have kind of been buzzsaws so far in Omaha. So I don't know how to call it. It seems fairly even. Both teams are playing good baseball. A&M's pitching's been so good. I don't know. I genuinely don't have a feel for which direction it's going to go in, which means, maybe we should get a really badass best of three when it's all said and done.
Yep. Game 1 Saturday. They both get a couple of days off before that one starts. All right, Catch. How do we start this discussion? Would you like to show the graphic early, or do you want to kind of dig into this a little bit?
Yeah, let's just go right to the graphic right away. Because the single biggest thing to take out of all of the data crunching is that prior to 2022, the most amount of attrition, which is just the loss of players for whatever reason, injuries, transfer, grades, arrests, whatever reason, getting thrown off the team, whatever reasons lead to a guy not being on the team anymore, that's attrition. Prior to 2022, the largest number of players in a 3-year cycle to transfer out was 40. And ironically, that was from 2019 to 2021. See, 13, 13, 14, 40. And from 2022 to 2024, the last 3 years, the record was 40 over the course. I can't go any further back than 2003. Forgive me. You just forgive me that this is what I have to work with.
That's fair.
64 in the last 3 years.
Man.
More than 1.5 times the largest amount of turnover that the Longhorn program has seen in the history of maybe the modern day history of the program. Again, I don't know what was happening with Fred Akers and Darrell Royal back in the day, but in this modern era, it's been it's almost an absurd number of guys. You have 85 scholarships in a football program. They've turned over more than 75% of the roster in departures not connected to graduation or going to the NFL. These are guys that are just leaving to transfer usually. I've got all this charted back to 2003, Chad. And if you go back to that 2003 class, it's got a Dorian McCullough academics in there. You've got a Clint Haney injury mixed in there.
Okay.
In 2024, it's almost all transfers. But what this has allowed Texas to do for the last couple of years, it trims the worst part of its roster. Let's say the bottom 25%. It replaces these players that mostly going out are guys that aren't making any kind of a dent in the actual two deep in the program. They're not playing much. And it replaces them immediately with older players who have much more instant impact ability. When we look at the 10 transfers they're bringing in this year, Chad, and I guess you could bring that down for now. We may call it back up here in a second.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about the 10 transfers that are coming in this season, you've got 3 wide receivers, a couple of which are probably projected to be starters. You've got 3 defensive tackles. You've got a potential starting cornerback and a potential starting safety. And, you know, those guys have come in and are replacing, by and large, guys that weren't going to play at all. And without the high attrition, if you're Texas, you probably aren't able to have the volume of success that you've had in the portal. And it's the very thing, for my money, combined with his high-level high school football recruiting. So you're bringing in the super blue chips, which we know Texas is now ranked 4th in the country in terms of super blue chips. In a real short amount of time, they've put themselves among the Ohio States, Alabamas, and Georgias of the world from a talent standpoint. It's been able to supplement that talent with recruiting talent that I think has put Texas in the position that it's in today. That without this historically high level of attrition, changing, this flushing of the bottom of the roster for the last 3 years, Texas isn't in the situation that it's in today. And I don't know that I'd ever truly had a grasp of the math of it all. You know, it's like, oh yeah, no, they've had a bunch of transfers, and we know that they brought in portal guys, but to see the numbers, how much higher they are than anything that's ever happened before, and knowing how Texas has replaced that talent, because previously, if you had a bunch of attrition, it was the sign of a program in trouble. That put that back up there for a second, Chad. If you look at the numbers between 2012 and 2019, it's double digits every year except one. Every other year, it's double digits, which means over the course of a 3 or 4 year cycle, it's not too far away from half the number of slots that are in the program. And what that keeps you from being able to do as a program is you're always young. You never have big junior or senior classes because there's been so much turnover. So for all of those teams that at the end of Mac's tenure, throughout Charlie's tenure, into Tom Herman's tenure, those teams were always young. They never had the kind of makeup that the TCU team had a couple of years ago when they go to the national championship game. It's like, man, look at all the seniors. There's 20-something seniors, and almost all the starting lineup seniors, some of them 5th-year seniors. What's interesting is that in the modern day era of attritions, what are we talking about? Last 3 years. Now, when you trim the bottom of your roster, you're replacing those guys usually with older guys. It's upperclassmen all over the board, all of the receivers, upperclassmen, those 3 defensive tackles, all seniors and getting ready to depart. So while you have to do the thing that Sarks talks about, you almost have to rebuild your culture every year. The reality is you've been able to add maturity and experience to your program by flushing guys that are usually 1st or 2nd or 3rd year guys that have 0 experience. When you go into the portal to replace them, it's really, 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 really rare that Texas would go in there and say, let's take this guy that's never done anything before and give that a spin. It's most likely older guy, started at another school, and brings experience and a built-in quality of play that's known, that's just completely different.
Catch, there's folks in the chat that definitely want to engage here, and I want to get some of their reactions. Jerry, one of our best chatters, has this one. Biggest takeaway from the breakdown: Sark doesn't keep those non-winning lottery tickets, non-Super Blues, in his pocket for very long. And then the continuation is very different from Mac, who kept all those losing lottery tickets and old receipts that made it look like he was carrying George Costanza's wallet. Jerry, that's an interesting analogy. Would you agree with that, though, Catch, that basic layout of that it is about Sark not keeping those type of guys around? Well, not keeping them around in that they're going to be leaving. They're going to realize the situation and they're going to leave 2 or 3 years into it.
I don't want to go into a long dissertation and lose everybody here, but it's a little bit more nuanced for a couple of different reasons, which I can outline. Number one, it's not like Sark is creating this, that it's a him thing. We're in a new era of college football, and I think there have probably been guys that he stay, don't give up. Like,
right.
Give us another year and see if things have changed. I don't know that they want to lose everybody, but in the portal, we're in this new era. So the numbers spike at exactly the moment when the portal really becomes a thing and guys are transferring without sitting out a year. What Chad and I talked about earlier is it just happens to coincide with the arrival of Sarkisian.
Yep.
But
you can see it.
You want to say that there's a real correlation there, but the bigger correlation is that these guys have a level of freedom that has never existed before. So you should expect to see some spike. Now, I think what's interesting is that Texas was already on the high side of attrition. Put it back up real quick, Chad. When you see those bottom 3 years and the jump that's made, keep in mind that the numbers right before 2022 were record numbers.
Yeah, slowly going up. Yep.
So if you were Texas and you say, okay, well, from 2020 to 2017, they had a total of almost 50 guys leave. You'd probably like to trim that up just a couple per year so that instead of 13, you're closer to 10. Like that, I think that's what you would have seen the Alabamas and the Clemsons and the Georgias do, the teams that were really winning. They'd have some attrition, but it wasn't quite that high. Texas has the spike there. What we don't know is I haven't done the attrition numbers for anybody other than Texas.
Yeah.
What I probably need to do, Chad, is get Georgia and Ohio State and Texas A&M and Alabama and just focus on the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. And try to get an idea of just how high this is related in terms of in context with its peers. It seems really, really high, but I would imagine A&M's numbers don't look too different. We know they had, I think, more than 20 in this year alone. So it might be that this is more common than maybe we know, because nobody's done the research. And look, I'm the only one that's done the Texas research. Mm-hmm. You can't expect that I would just do everybody, but I think it's probably needed to some extent so that we can have some context of, oh yeah, Texas has had 64 in the last 3 years and Georgia's at 45. Okay. We'd look at that then and say, that's a pretty big number. There's still a lot to this conversation that needs to be sorted through. What we do know is it's a huge number, and that if Texas doesn't have that high number, then it's not able to take advantage of what they've been able to in the portal. We'll take this super chat right now. I just say, they're sitting at 84 scholarships right now. That's with 21 guys leaving the program. If it had been 15, which would still be, prior to the last 3 years, one of the highest numbers in the history of the program. Think about think of 6 portal guys that you'd be willing to just chop off, because that's what you'd have to do. So which of those defensive tackles are you not taking? Do you have to not take Silas Bolden? Do you not have enough room to take Javion Cole in? Like, there are all of the trickle downs, I think, that make this an even more interesting conversation. Super chat $9.99 from Oscar. How much 85 do you think comes with Sark's?
That's BS.
Oh, read the damn thing for me, Chad.
How much BS do y'all think comes with Sark's 5-star culture? I think it's important to him, but if he took truth pills, he'd say 5 stars are what wins.
I mean, they're both critically important. It's about the Jimmy and the Joes and not the X's and the O's or the culture. That at some level, having all those guys that got drafted into the NFL last year mattered more than anything else. I think if you're Sark, can we be honest about college football coaches? They have massive egos. I'm not trying to slander anybody. It's part of what makes them them and allows them to get into the position. Coaches are always going to sell the thing that they do as most important. So you'll hear Sark say, we're not an NIL program, but they're a top 5 NIL program. You'll see them. They never want these things that they don't control getting credit for the work that takes place. It's all about the cooking. And so I think this culture thing really gets used because that's Sark. That's him seasoning the program. But the acquisition of talent is the most important thing in college football, and that goes back decades. I mean, it's not a new frontier. Jimmy Johnson was quite open about it when he was at Miami. You recruit the best players, and guess what? You win the most games. Having the most talented roster matters. This Georgia-Alabama dominance over the course of the last decade, not an accident. That didn't just those two schools didn't just fall out of a tree and say, they're just going to dominate for a while. It just happens. It doesn't just happen. And this Texas resurgence hasn't just happened. It has happened at the exact same time where they have a top 5 roster in terms of elite talent. But yeah, the culture matters. It absolutely does. But every coach in America thinks he has great culture. We decide the coaches that have the best cultures are the ones that win the most games. Tom Herman, I don't know that he had a great culture, but once upon a time, Texas fans were selling Tom Herman's culture until he started losing games, and then his culture sucked all over again. Chad. They loved it in the beginning when he was like, sit up at attention. I'm going to make you eat runny eggs, and like all of the Tom Herman stuff that went in. And then when he started losing too many games, it was like, oh, hate that guy making his players eat runny eggs. Shut up, sit up. Oh, Herman.
Yeah, losing will make bullies of us all. Oscar, we appreciate the super chat. We have another super chat in line. Jay, we see you. A lot of other good chats are
Jay Lee's super chat's perfect.
Jay Lee's super chat is fantastic. As always, Jay Lee's a great super chatter. We will get to that. Let's take a quick breath here.
I know you're going to make us pay a bill and take a break. But that Jay Lee question that we're about to go to is exactly the right question.
Yeah, it's fantastic. That's why I'm giving a little suspense, and we'll do that. And while during the suspense, you can dream about the setup that AV Consultations can create for you. Check it out, and there'll be a comment about maybe your spouse.
To your wife.
There you go. You get that too. Here we go.
Hi, this is Tom McKay with Audiovisual Consultations. Today's home electronics can be a bit daunting. My company has spent the last 36 years making sure they are not. For those of you who have not experienced our services yet, we'd like to invite you to give us a try for all your home electronics needs. We carry all the major brands of televisions and stereo equipment at prices you can't find in stores. And we come to you. There's no need to leave your home to find great pricing and incomparable service. No traffic, inexperienced sales geeks, or pushy showroom tactics. We believe in having some fun and dreaming big. You have a dream for your home entertainment? Let us know. We can make it come true. And we are always there to help after the job is done. We cultivate clients for a lifetime by treating everyone like their family. No, not those family members. I'm talking about the ones you actually like. So relax, hug your kids, make love to your wife, and smile. Then, when you have a moment, give us a call at 255-8678. That's 512-255-8678. Or online at avconsultations.com.
All right, House Divided on a Thursday. And here's that super chat we were teasing, $5 from Jay Lee. Jay, thank you for another great super chat. Wouldn't we assume these numbers go down now that Sark has a roster that is all his guys? Makes sense to have a lot of guys leave the first few years of your tenure. That's an interesting thought.
The only answer I can give you, Jay, is maybe. Yes, I think that's what you, careful assuming, but I think that's what you would think. But Texas was in the playoff last year, so he in theory, that was most of his team. Most of the Herman guys that remained were really badass. Mm-hmm. There were very few Herman guys that were still on the roster last season that weren't NFL draft picks. They were really, the ones that remained were really good. These are all Herman's guys, but they had 21 leave the program this year, a number of them from the last two recruiting classes. I don't know, because I think, Chad, what Sark's been able to do in the last couple of years is he's had his cake and he's eaten it too. He hasn't stopped taking massive, I won't say massive, that he's taking full recruiting classes, so somewhere between 22, 25, 27 of high school kids, while still having enough room left over to go take a big transfer class. This past year, 22 kids in the recruiting class, and they've taken 10 transfer guys. I think Sarkisian in the last couple of years has really enjoyed being able to add 30-plus incoming talent pieces into the program. In order for that to continue, either the attrition numbers have to stay high as they've been. Because again, they lose 21 this year. They end up being at 84 scholarships. They were at 83, so they would have had two. They didn't quite need that. 19 would have been enough, and they would have been able to get everything that apparently they wanted, although we know they would have taken another badass defensive tackle if they could have gotten that kind of a guy. Although you could argue they don't take the guy from Oklahoma if they end up knowing they're going to get the kid from TCU, whatever. At some point, if there's not going to be attrition at historically high levels, then Sarkisian's going to have to make a call about giving something up. Do I take fewer high school players so that I give myself the flexibility to take as many transfers as I would like to take, or am I just not going to take as many transfers? I think the alternative, like that second one, is a bad one. Because again, I would challenge you. He took 10 this year. Look at the roster and tell me who you want to wipe out. If you've got to take 5 of those transfers and send them back to the portal, do you really want to do it? Who are the 5? Because they all are expected to provide immediate depth. They're all expected to be immediate starters, or at least compete for starting spaces. I don't know. Like, Jay, it's the perfect question because it's the one that I'm asking myself out loud, but I don't have a good answer for it because either you're wrong and the numbers stay high, even though we would think it might not because Sark has the roster, or they've got to figure out where they're going to make cuts, because for the last couple of years, Sark hasn't had to make any concessions. He's been able to have both, but the only way that you can have both is if the attrition stays sky high, 20 a year. And I don't know, you would think that at some point it would slow down, but it really hasn't. 64 over a 3-year window is an average of more than 20 per year. This year they were at 21. So not even being in the playoffs this year kept a ton of guys that were recruited by Sark, all from basically departing the program.
Jay, we appreciate that super chat. There's a lot of great chats coming in. I just like this one because it's short and sweet. Are they still Sark's guys if they are transfers? Technically, no, but that's also, Catch, I think there's a romanticism in this story when you say his guys, when you say culture. There's a romance to all of that. And the old days was about, we want guys that, like, the thought is somehow your culture is based on that you're but you pointed it out many times. A lot of times culture is based around one thing, just playing good football. You play good football, a culture can be built around that. What he's got to do is figure out the game each way, figure out how that works. But I think it's dangerous when you say like the his guys thing, because guess what, Catch? There's some of his guys every year that are going to be not good enough. You can be his guy and not good enough at the same time.
Well, let's look at the guys that left this year.
Okay.
B.J. Allen, Sark guy. Xavier Bryce, Sark guy. Terrence Brooks, Sark guy. Samaje Burrell, Sark guy. Trill Carter, Sark guy. Jalen Catalon, Sark guy. You get the picture. We can go down the entire list. They're all Sark guys.
And the other danger here, we talked about this with receivers. Let's focus on that because it's high profile. People remember the story. The question was, do you go into this season with Jonte Cook as your number one pass catcher from last year and take your chances with the developmental process immediately? First year of the SEC, your quarterback's back, but Jonte is the guy that had the most catches. Or do you have to say to Jonte, hey, man, we believe in you and you're going to be a part of this team, but we got to bring in guys that have more skins on the wall, more catches, more reps, and then you go into the portal. That's the balance of it. You're going to have a lot of those. So then the guys underneath Jonte Cook on the pecking order, the next 2 or 3 receivers, they're going to go find another opportunity, and you're going to get to bring in those 3 transfers that we've obviously talked about. And I could see the argument being made, Catch, that moving forward, that's going to pretty much happen every cycle. Every cycle, you're going to have similar stories. Because somebody asked us earlier about time frame. Let me see if I can find this chat because I thought it was a good. Here we go. This one, Catch. Do you guys know more or less how long guys are staying before they leave? Feels like redshirt sophomore is the sweet spot to make the call. A couple years ago, Catch, I started noticing a weird phrase that was used when a guy would make his decision, when he would commit. A couple of them started saying, for the next 3 to 4 years, I'm going to blank. And I remember thinking, that's an interesting way to phrase it, for the next 3 or 4 years. I think these kids are getting smart enough, Catch, where they realize that into that 2 to 3 year window, if they don't know, then they got, if you don't know, you got to go, to use a Johnny Cochran type of way to say it. But I think we're sensing it all over the place. But I think that's the foundation of what Sark's getting to do here. Because at about the 2-year mark, I think they all see the writing on the wall.
I think the thing that we all have to do, and this is really hard because this is all really recent stuff. We're talking about a major dynamic in the fabric of how championship teams can be built in college football. And we're discussing this in real time in the middle of, or in the very infancy stages of, I think, what is now going to become a long-term pattern. So every traditional, conventional wisdom thought that you have about college football, you have to remind yourself that might be outdated. And we've gone our entire life with notions that we're now disputing. And it's always felt like it's a certain kind of way. And it's a hell of a thing to say, no, things have changed. When did they change? 5 minutes ago. Oh, well, if you say so. So, I understand there will be some pushback on some of this. To an even larger point, I want to make sure that everybody understands this. This is not a criticism of Steve Sarkisian. It's actually the opposite.
Yeah.
They've lost this many guys. And the traditional response is to think that that's bad, to think Steve Sarkisian doesn't have a handle on his program and guys are being run out. And there's all these negative positions that fit in very comfortably with the numbers. They're scary. He's found the secret. Think about Dabo. Think about how reluctant Dabo is at change. One of Steve Sarkisian's best skills, if he's got a chef's kiss skill, it's his ability to very quickly adjust and change his mind. He did not 2 years ago want to go into the transfer portal the way that he has. He was going after the Ben Davises of the world and the Ogie Ogofus of the world. And, it was, I'm going to take an SEC guy, or I'm going to go to Notre Dame and get a guy that one of my former coaches have gone after. And none of these guys were making impacts because I think he was kind of pussyfooting around with the portal. But then he gets Adonai Mitchell. And oh, by the way, he gets Quinn Ewers and he gets Ryan Watts, and you start Keelan Robinson, and you start adding these pieces together. And I think he's realized, like, this is the acceleration device to being good.
Yeah.
And if you do this,
yep,
and you're doing everything else as well, like, you can go to the moon fast. I don't think there's enough appreciation for how quickly Texas has gone from point A, 5-7, to point B, essentially in the playoffs in less than 2 seasons, or in less than 24 months, I should say. It wasn't magic. It took a lot of things happening at the same time, and Sark had to do it on the fly, getting it right. And that's easier said than done. If it was easy, everybody would do it. The question, so for me, this is, other than to give him a pat on the back for doing something that really nobody else in college football is quite doing at the same level that he is in terms of a program rebuild, don't look at this as a negative. I don't know that it is. Like, I know the question comes in from Jay Lee, shouldn't the numbers taper off as Sarkisian starts to get his guys into the program? Maybe, or maybe this is just the way that it is moving forward. And if you're Texas and you're going to keep doing the things that you've done in the last 12 months, which, oh, by the way, are expected in these next 5 months, maybe this is what it has to be. Maybe keeping an extra 8 kids a year on the roster is the thing that could potentially hold you back. Like, I don't know. There's not a 10-year sample size, Chad, for us to draw any conclusions on. There's essentially a 3-year sample size. So it's really tough to predict into the future what exactly will happen with the numbers. But if you ask me, do I think in the next 3 years, Texas will average between 15, 16, 17, and say 22 a year? Man, I don't think that's changing. I think that is going to eventually be proven to be the new norm. And you just never would have known that or could have guessed that as recent as 5 minutes ago for a lot of people.
Yeah, to your discussion, I think that's why Nate's chat was interesting to me. I appreciate that Sark embraced the portal even after his first couple portal classes being misses. Nate, I think you're right, because we have looked at back, not that long ago, we looked at having to go into the portal as desperation. We looked at it as something you didn't want to do, and we looked at it as something catch that the top.
Not me. I just, for the record, not me.
No. But it's not something that we thought of the top programs always doing. But look across a lot of sports now. Basketball, basketball champions that have a transfer or
Baseball.
2. Go to Major League Baseball first, but then come down to college baseball. How many champions are you seeing that have no transfers? I mean, are y'all watching the College World Series? Apparently every other batter that comes up for A&M catch, they used to be in the Ivy League. So there's just all these different things happening. And I think there is a change that we're watching, and Sark seems to be able to ride the change pretty well. We've gotten some good chats in. There's a couple of where were the ones? Well, this was the general chat earlier. just aren't other teams' attrition charts similar due to the portal? Adam, that's what we don't know specifically, but those are, like Ketch said earlier, there's a couple programs you'd love to take a look at 21, 22, 23, or I guess 22, 23, 24 of that number, and really take a look at the Kirby Smarts of the world. Heck, Nick is gone. Harbaugh's gone. So this is really about Kirby Smart, Ryan Day, and what DeBoer inherits at Alabama. Catch, that's an interesting one because he's coming in trying to find my guys, but my guys were transitioning from, Seattle all the way over to Tuscaloosa. So how does that all play in?
Alabama prior to this year really interests me. Because Saban recruits so well that they all can't play. Same thing with Georgia. So I'm curious. I will spend some time over the course of the next few days because I'm OCD. So now that the question's been asked, I can't turn my head away from it. So I will almost certainly do at least a half dozen programs. I'll the ones that we've already mentioned, I'll probably do Ohio State. Maybe I need to pick some that are somewhat dysfunctional. I don't mean Colorado, right? Where it's like 50 guys left last year.
Don't do that one. Don't do that one.
You know what? And that's another thing. I don't know what the sweet spot is. Somebody, I was debating on Orange Bloods earlier. There's clearly an amount that's too much. And I think we saw that at Colorado a year ago.
Right. Well, and that's why, like, Catch, to that point, since you brought it up, CJ had this one earlier that I liked. Catch, after seeing these attrition numbers, does it change your philosophy on taking high school guys? You've said they should take 15 instead of 25. If Sark took less high school guys, would there be less attrition? I have a thought, but I'm going to let you go first.
Well, you wouldn't need as much attrition in a lot of cases because they're taking so many upperclassmen. So Texas has 17 departing seniors this year off the roster, which is the way you used to count how many high school kids you can take. Pre-portal, you would say, well, how many seniors do you have? 17. And the coaches would go around saying, we have room for 17 guys. And then every time you'd lose a guy or two, that number goes up. But think about, look at this. You've got Andrew Makuba comes in through the portal, Jermaine Lole, Bill Norton, Tia Savea. And that's 4 guys. Silas Golden, that's 5. So 5 of the 10 transfers, they come in and they go out, and those 5 scholarships are always open every year if you're doing that. If you look at a little further back, everybody else is either a junior or a senior. So the guys that I didn't include in that senior group, Javion Cole, Trey Moore, and then you start thinking about Amari Nyblack and Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden, and there's your other 5. So every guy that they brought in is either a junior or a senior. Over the course of a 2-season window, those numbers will just flush themselves out. But I think the bottom line, though, to the question is at some point, the numbers have to taper off to some degree. Otherwise, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the consequences would be. This is a little bit like, you could live your entire life just eating candy. I eat M&Ms every day, morning, noon, and night, and it's enough to keep my body running. Well, eventually, it's like that guy that ate McDonald's for the documentary for 30 straight days, and at the end of the 30 days, his body was breaking down from too many Big Macs and whatever else they sell. That could be the case with all of this, that at some point, if Sark's got the car running 200 miles an hour, eventually you come to a little bit of a turn. Maybe you have to slow down, but you've got to learn the course. You've got to learn you have to learn the territory. And it's the thing that we don't know yet. I don't know what it means if every year you lose 20 plus guys. It may be the thing that you have to do. It might be the key to success. I think it's been the key to Texas's success in the last 12 months, this season and last season included. I really believe this is the key that's opened the door for what Texas is on the verge and has to some degree already experienced. I just don't know what it means if you keep that behavior up for, let's say, another 3 or 4 years. At some point, does it start to have a drawback? It's tough to say because we have no evidence, at least on the Texas side, of it being a bad thing. This is all specifically correlated with Texas's rise to where they are right now. Mm-hmm. So, ultimately, if Sarkisian were to have a drop-off in the next 3 years and average 8 or 9 wins per year, we might then look back in 3 or 4 years and say, you know what the problem was, right? Too many guys leaving the program. You can direct a narrative in a lot of different ways, depending on kind of what you're going for. I can tell you in advance that if Texas started losing games, this would suddenly be viewed as a problem, more so as the recipe for success. But going into a year where they're projected to be in the top 5, we didn't get into this, Chad. Maybe we just need to circle back around. But there were some game lines put out for all of the prominent games that Texas plays in next year. Did you see that?
I did. Yes. Favored in every
against Oklahoma.
Right. Favored against everybody except Georgia.
That team that has been created with these circumstances. Yeah. So I'm really curious to see. I'm weird. After doing all this, I'm weirdly fascinated by what does next year look like? Just, is there a little bit of a drop off? I think which all people would go, okay, that makes a little sense. And that probably would make people comfortable if the number were 15 instead of 20. It would sound like, oh, okay, things are stabilizing a little bit. But is a destabilization. Sorry, that ended up being a tricky word for me.
Yeah, I thought the last 2 were good.
Thank you, but the first one was gibberish.
First one was weird. The last 2 I thought you nailed.
Because I heard gibberish and said, wait a minute, no, yeah, right. Go back to that and fix that.
Yeah.
We just don't know. So don't feel like I'm making I've made some declarations, but they're all declarations made inside of an understanding that where this goes long-term kind of remains to be seen.
Yeah. CJ, thank you so much. We got a couple super chats lined up and ready to go. Good conversation today on the attrition war in college football. Real quick, before we do that, let me see if I can make you a little hungry. A little Hays City Store. Nothing wrong with that. I'm always looking at Hays City Store. Haven't been out there in, it's been a couple weeks, but we're always making a plan to get back out to Hays City Store. They are in beautiful Driftwood. They're right there between Kyle and Wimberley. If you have not been to Hays City Store yet, this is one of our presenting sponsors for SEC Media Days. Hays City Store and the place I've told you about in Buda, Taste on Main, will be our presenting sponsors. Get on out to Hays City Store. Make your plans. All the great cocktails, all the great drinks, the beautiful food out there. Start off with that home run dip. It's just excellent. You get a little guac and you get a little salsa and you get a little queso. My kid would kill for their queso. It's fantastic. They have great pizza. Their burgers are awesome. Their enchiladas are legendary. Add the fried egg. You'll thank me later. They have pork chops that are out of this world, 3 different ways: chicken fried, grilled, and blackened. I've had all 3. All 3 will change your life. So get on out to Hays City Store. Tell Travis, Tamara, whoever you talk to that you heard it right here on Orange Bloods Live. And as always, making myself a little hungry talking Hays City Store. Shout out to them. Shout out to all of our great chatters, including the super chatters. Let's see where we start. JR, we're going to start with yours since it's $19.99. Thank you so much. Yeah. This says the Tom Herman hire was a necessary step to the current state of the program. I soured on Tom, but give credit in laying some foundation. The alignment mantra was important in the mental culture / focus of football and non-football ops. It's an interesting thought about Tom Herman catch being not the ultimate goal, but a means to an end, maybe.
Yeah, look. There's definitely at least for me, an acknowledgement that Herman played a part in the buildup of Sark's ascension. because you can't look at the players that they've had drafted in the NFL in the last couple of years, whether it be Bijan and Roshan and, and then Jordan Whittington and Christian Jones and Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat and Jalen Ford. And it's been a long list of guys that Herman did bring to the table. It's a little bit like when Bob Stoops won his first national championship at Oklahoma. He did it with a bunch of John Blake players. And John Blake was a disaster for Oklahoma, but he recruited Roy Williams. He was able to bring in a number of guys that better coaching was able to get more out of. And I think that that's what Steve Sarkisian and this staff, Herman deserves a lot of credit for some of his evaluations. And the Texas staff under Sarkisian deserves a lot of credit in maximizing what they were able to get out of a Tavondre Sweat or a Byron Murphy. That it's okay to say that there's enough room of good stuff that's been done that credit can be passed around a little bit. We've joked before where it's like, when does a team become so-and-so's guys and which ones aren't his guys? Whenever a new coach shows up in the very first year, some guys get drafted, both coaches will claim those players as their guys. And nobody ever wants to claim the guys that don't make it. Who are the guys that transferred? Oh, that was the other guy. No. They transferred on his wife. It's, it is one of those deals where everybody takes what they can from the good that they think that they can grab. And nobody wants to grab any of the stinky stuff. And, I think that, I think the Herman years are remembered a little too harshly for my taste, but I know why it exists. The last 12 months of the program, all of the negativity that ended up boiling inside of it, the eyes of Texas. Let's not pretend like some of these things aren't really the biggest reason and not what was happening on the football field. He was a very good coach where Texas once great. And behind the scenes, things were an absolute mess. But there were some really good things that were done. And Sark and this program aren't where they are without Herman's contributions. It's okay to say that.
JR, thank you for that super chat. We have 2 other super chats waiting. So let's go to Jay next with a $5 super chat. It's the opposite side of the convo, and Gundy has mentioned it before. Do you think we ever see short-term contracts to lock guys into schools? That's an interesting question, Jay. Catch, that would be, I think of a guy that would be more of that 3 to low 4-star type of guy. Would you want to go in, have some sort of contract with the player that exists for 2 or 3 seasons so they feel, I don't know, safe or comfortable? Because
why would the players have to agree to that deal?
What's that now?
What's in it for the players to agree to such a thing?
The stability of, I know I'm a part of a program for a couple years. If I don't, to me, I would tell neither side to think about it because you want mobility.
I think the answer to the question is no.
I don't think that's where it's headed. And by the way, to speak back,
I don't think we're ever going to see short-term contracts.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like an idea that would make sense now. And to the question earlier about how many do you bring in? Catch, I don't know if taking the number 25 all the way down to 15 is what's going to make sense. I think putting as much into the top of the funnel is still going to be the right idea. Because here's what we have to remember. Sark controls when those guys leave. We can all act like it's their choice. Oh, man, a 3-star comes in. He could just be there for 4 years if he wants to. Really? Could he?
Well, he could. I can literally point to a player. Max Merrill has never played in a game that I'm aware of.
Right.
He's in his 4th year. Why does he get a 4th year? Because there's this idea that Sark decides who gets to come back, and he does to a certain extent, but there's an understanding between everybody in the game that when you come out of high school, you're going to get 4 or 5 years, enough time to get your degree and get all of those things. And if that starts getting taken away, and maybe it will, it hasn't yet, but maybe we'll get to it. But we've also seen situations where there have been college coaches who've taken scholarships away from, a lot of times the ones that stand out the most to me are freshmen, guys that signed letters of intent or were committed to play. And then at the very last second, a school kind of takes it away from them and says, oops, we miscounted and we don't have the numbers and you have to go somewhere else. More times than not, these guys, even though they're on 1-year deals that always have to be renewed, it's incredibly rare for the scholarships to be wiped out, pulled out from underneath guys that aren't performing. Because if you do that, good luck recruiting that area ever again. You essentially become persona non grata in, let's say you do that to a player who lives in, who's from Duncanville High School. Suddenly that entire district knows, don't send your kids there because they might take the scholarship away from them. And it's one of the things that college coaches have to juggle is their commitment to the high school coaches is so significant that if you betray that even a little bit, those guys can be really difficult to work with once you've stepped on their toes. They're a fickle bunch of divas high school football head coaches can be. Yeah. Their expectations are to get everything and to oftentimes not have to make many concessions.
Yeah, you don't want to get a Dion rep about those guys at Colorado that Dion came in and did a lot of that. And maybe in year one you can get away with it, but he doesn't need to have that reputation continue year after year after year. And obviously you don't want Sark to have that. And
he doesn't have that.
Right. He does not have that rep at all. But then there's just that balancing out of, like you said, how many are you bringing in? But then I think he also knows just naturally, Catch, every year there's going to be a group of guys that haven't had reps, that haven't had their opportunity, and they may want to move on. The other adjustment I think he's got to ask himself about, Catch, you've said this too, after the name came and went, will Sark adjust based on season? Will he adjust things in that December, January time period where he would go after a Walter Nolan instead of doing what he did? If you get to that window and you think forward and go, man, we're going to need that. Do you go ahead and grab it in that first window so you're not having to worry about what we saw?
I think that's a lesson to learn. We'll see. I mean, it's what just immediately happened. So we haven't seen yet whether or not they will. The thing that I would probably point to say that will be a lesson that becomes learned is that Sark doesn't usually need 2 or 3 times. He doesn't need the same lesson over and over again to learn something from. And I know these sound like backhanded compliments, but it's one of the things I like most about him as a coach is that he learns his lessons quickly and has shown the ability to cut bait and adjust instead of just hanging in there for the sake of hanging into antiquated notions really quickly. And you wouldn't know that about the guy when you hired him. He wasn't at USC long enough to have a real sample size. What happens at Washington is completely different than what would happen at a major program like USC or Texas. And it was so long ago that how do you draw conclusions that are important in 2024 from something that happened a decade ago? So we're learning these in real time about Sarkisian as it happens. In the old days, this would be something maybe 10 years from now, we'd have the whereabouts and to be able to look back and say, hey, this stuff was happening. And it turns out it was really important, wasn't it? We're having this conversation in real time. This isn't a conversation that's taking place all over the country. I don't know that Kyle Henderson and his Alabama channel are talking about this.
Yeah, I was going to tell you, we need to get Kyle on those numbers. If you can get him looking up the Bama numbers, that'd be good. Get him to do some research for us.
It's so new that I don't think a lot of the people in the sport know how important it is. Even I just did the numbers a couple of days ago, and I don't think I was expecting them to be as high as they were. I know that Texas has had a bunch of attrition. I didn't know before I did the data that the numbers would be 64 from the latest 3-year window. And the last time I did these numbers 3 years ago, the number was 40. And we thought that 40 was too much. And 3 years later, it's 64. And I'm telling you right now, if that number were 55, Texas doesn't play in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
They needed every bit of those high numbers to create the team that they ultimately were able to create that got to where they were able to get.
Yeah, some small margins. All right, if you've just maybe you missed a couple shows and you're just jumping back in case you don't know, we have now gotten a great chat line to Bobby Heenan in heaven, basically. Every once in a while, we just get a super chat with Bobby Heenan wisdom. And we just want to thank Bobby and his representatives for this. Super chat $9.99. Bernsey, you are the one. I know all about cheating. I've had 6 very successful marriages. Bobby Heenan. Well done. Well done. All right. We are working towards a little buy or sell. Catch is very happy with a buy or sell. So he is definitely going to go second today. But before we do that, Catch, why don't you tell the folks about My Perfect Franchise and Andy, just in case they've got a dream and they just need a little help.
Yeah, it's real simple. Everybody has a dream. Everybody has an idea of what they'd like to do with their lives. And sometimes it's easier to dream about than it is to execute. MyPerfectFranchise.net makes it so that it's almost as easy to execute as it is to dream. But you got to reach out to Andy Ludicky, 404-973-9901. Text him, call him, or email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. Let him hold your hand through like the tricky stuff. Getting the business up off the ground, being successful, knowing that you did it every step of the way, exactly the way it needs to be done so that there are never any issues. I mean, that's kind of what he specializes in. Again, reach out to him. He's a nice guy. Look at that face. Don't you just want to pinch his cheeks? Don't you want to just pinch his cheeks and go, oh, Andy, oh, I just want to cuddle with you and let you build my business? It's hard not to. MyPerfectFranchise.net.
I'm sure he would appreciate that. I'm sure he would.
Andy, hope you're enjoying the show today.
Love you, Andy. Thanks to all of our great partners at Orange Bloods Live. All right, Catch, anything else you want to hit on this topic today, or do we go ahead and buy or sell?
Yeah, let's go ahead and buy or sell.
All right, let's do it. I will go first today. I'll do this first one as kind of a primer for our recruiting conversation tomorrow, Catch. Buy or sell number 1, Fasusi, French, Lockett, and Pettyjohn will all end up at Texas.
Fasusi, French, Lockett, and Pettyjohn. I'm going to sell.
Okay.
Because you're going to get DeCorian Moore, and I still have some doubts about whether in December all 3 of those receivers will stick with their commitments.
Fair enough. All right, buy or sell number 2. Catch, you tell Longhorn baseball fans to watch the championship series because one of those 2 coaches is coming to Austin.
Oh, man. Am I allowed to admit? By the way, breaking news on the Texas recruiting front.
Mm-hmm.
I saw someone mention this in the chat. As of 4 minutes ago, 4-star running back Racing Guillory. Remember him? Remember when he came on the show? Actually, it's not quite what happened.
No, this is the he's in the 2026 class, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
He has decommitted from Texas.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So now
let's finish buy or sell, and we'll circle back to that.
Gotcha. So now Diabell is alone in the 26 class.
Correct.
By himself. Okay, gotcha. All right. So no buy or sell on this. You want to hit this one or not?
No, give me the buy or sell. Let's finish buy or sell. We'll circle back.
Right. Okay. So one of those 2 coaches is coming to Austin.
Buy. I might as well. Don't put it on my tombstone if I'm wrong. Here lies Jeff Ketchum. He got the 2025 or 2024 baseball coaching search completely upside down wrong. But yeah, I'll say buy.
I mean, I'll give you a little out there. I did say you'd tell Texas baseball fans to watch it. You could just sell because you don't think they should watch. You could do that.
I mean, I could.
Yeah.
I don't know how. No, I wouldn't do that. Look, it's a dry summer. You might need to watch.
Gotcha. Fair enough. All right. Speaking of that series, buy or sell number 3. You'll take Tennessee in 3 games.
Sell. Give me the Aggies in 3.
All righty. Birthday time catch. Buy or sell number 4. Today, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys and Lionel Richie share a birthday. You'd rather see the Beach Boys in their prime than Lionel Richie.
Buy. Yeah. I love both. I've seen the Beach Boys in concert, but I've never seen Lionel Richie, but I don't think I would trade that one for the other.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Happy birthday to those guys. Happy birthday to this beauty as well. Nicole Kidman hits 57 today. Catch prime on prime. Nicole Kidman hotter than Kim Basinger.
Ooh. I'm going to sell Basinger. She's slightly hotter than Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, I think I might agree with you there. Happy birthday to the great Nicole Kidman. All right, Catch, that is my 5. What do you got for me?
Hold on. Give me just a second. I'm making a post on Orange Bloods. Say something for 10 seconds.
That'll work. That'll work. Yes, the reason he's doing that, the decommitment of Racine Guillory, the running back that was in the 2026 class, and then, of course, Diabell was added to the 2026 class. Racine Guillory decommitting just minutes ago, within the last, 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think Stucamel is somewhere, so I just need to make sure that it gets posted onto Orange Bloods. I've done that. Okay, we can do buy or sell now.
Okay.
These questions are a little bit all over the place. Going to have some fun with them. Buy or sell. Hold on. Jesus. Come on, Alex and Anwar. Delete some of these. I'm having a hard time just finding mine. Here we go. Buy or sell number 1. You would rather spend a month in the summer without air conditioning with Jesus than have a month in the summer with air conditioning with Zeus.
That is an interesting combo. Okay. I'd rather spend a month in the summer without AC with Jesus than a month in the summer with AC with Zeus. Based on the way this is presented, it sounds like I guess I can either pick where I'm going or I have to.
You could say, who's most important to me that I want to hang out with for a month, then factor in the air conditioning and non-air conditioning.
Look, Catch, there's a couple things, a couple reasons why this is simple for me. You got to understand that right now I am sitting in a house where the thermostat's at 80. Okay, I am hanging with my parents out in Cisco, and if you ever see their thermostat, if you see their thermostat set at 72, they have been kidnapped. So I'm used to it. I've spent plenty of time in this house where it was 95 degrees and nobody put the window unit on because it cost too much and we're running box fans. So A, I'm good with that. And B, if I get to hang with my birthday brother, JC, then Zeus is going to have to wait. I'll absolutely buy. I'll buy. I'm hanging with JC. We'll invite Ricky Henderson over. It'll be great.
I'm going to take Zeus. I'm going to sit in 72 degrees, and we're going to throw lightning bolts and shit around. That's what I'm doing.
You throw your cold lightning bolts around. I will hang out. I will hang out.
Jesus walk on water. We're having a good time no matter what.
I'm going to hang out with hot Jesus, and I'm assuming we'll still have a good time.
Buy or sell number 2. Texas A&M is in a position to play for its first major men's sport national title in 85 years. And that is both embarrassing and exhilarating at the same time.
Yeah, I guess that's a buy. Certainly it's the latter. And yeah, I mean, you put a small E on the embarrassing. Maybe if you'd capitalized it, I don't know if it's that much, but it's a long damn time. And for any major men's sport, I was trying to work that out in my head where I'm like, of the major men's sports, team sports that we all follow, Catch, I've never seen an A&M team play a game that gets them to the game, that gets them the title. And in some cases, it's multiple steps. Now, obviously, football's been a flawed system my entire life. That doesn't count. In a way, football does not count because there have been teams that would have been in a playoff or whatever. So in a way, football's different. But yeah, it is wild. And you know, all the references that get made to 1939 and it's been this, and it's been that. And, you know, folks online loving all that stuff. that has to be a little embarrassing for Aggie fans. So it's a little bit of that, but it is pretty damn cool. First time they've ever been in the championship series in Omaha. It is cool. So I'll buy it.
If 85 years is embarrassing with a baby E, what gets it up to a capital E?
If it was just a flat out never.
Okay.
Right?
I was like, does 100 make it embarrassing with a capital E?
Maybe. But that's also, there's a little bit of an expectation there too, to get to the capital E. And I don't know how much expectation is necessarily fair to put on it, but yeah, that would be certainly it. If it was like 100 years, if 39 never existed, if A&M didn't claim any titles in football, like none right now, if they had none in any of the sports and basketball was what it is and baseball had been what it is, then that would probably be capital E. Yes.
This is the sign that A&M is about to win the championship. 85 years, 85%.
Hey, there it is. And house divided. Beautiful.
I'm just saying that it might be all coming together. Buy or sell number 3. 35 years ago today, the B-52s released Love Shack. And you fucking hate that song.
Sell. I do not hate Love Shack. I wish I could go see like a
Love Shack, baby.
I wish I could go see a B-52 show like in their prime at a not a club, like at a sorority or frat house at Georgia in Athens when they were really on their way up. They're not my favorite band of all time, but I love that they exist, Catch. I love that a band like that exists. Love Shack is one that I didn't let it get overplayed in my mind. So when I hear it, I still have fun. I'll go singing it around the house and embarrass my daughter. You know, sign says, stay away, fools. Like I'll get after it. Tin Roof Rusted and the whole thing. Yeah, it makes me think of the 90s. I still enjoy it. So I'm selling. I don't hate it.
Because when that song came out, there were a lot of people that hated it.
Oh, I know.
Because it got really overplayed.
Oh, my God. Yeah, it did get played way too much. Way too much.
But I'm ending this with a hotter than. So I've got one more non-hotter than.
Okay.
Buy or sell number 4. Kendrick Lamar had what will be remembered as a historic live concert last night on Amazon Prime. And you know nothing about what happened.
That is a buy. I did not know there was a historic live concert on Amazon Prime. I don't know about what happened at the show. I have no idea. Did he bring Drake on stage and they sang like, you know, can't we all just get along? Or did they sing like, well, you know, love is all you need or something?
He had a Juneteenth concert in LA where the Bloods and the Crips came on stage together. They put their differences aside. Wow. And they all hated on Drake together. It was beautiful. Unity in Los Angeles, all in the name of hating Drake.
That's interesting. So real hatred took a night off to celebrate petty hatred?
Yes.
Is that what? Okay. I'm not sure
how that. Quite a beautiful thing to see. Guess how many times he played the song Not Like Us, which is the song of the summer. It may be the song of 2024. I'm going to say he performed it how many times last night?
I'm going to say he gave it the Willie Nelson Whiskey River treatment, and he put it at the beginning and the end twice.
Incorrect.
None?
He played Euphoria, which was one of the Drake diss tracks to lead off the concert. He closed the show by playing Not Like Us 5 times.
Oh, dear God.
And on the 5th time, all of Los Angeles, including Russell Westbrook, DeMar DeRozan, who used to be a guy, when DeMar DeRozan got traded from the Raptors, he went to Drake's house for comfort. And last night he was on the stage. Dr. Dre was there. You missed an event. It was something else. Let me just tell you, reading the live tweets while watching it on Amazon Prime was as much fun as I've had at any point this summer. It was a good time.
I am glad you had a good time. I did not know. I guess can I go back and watch now on Amazon?
It's on Amazon Prime.
All right. I will make you no promise.
I would assume you can go watch it on Amazon Prime for free.
Yeah, I will go. Yeah, I'll go back and watch. I will not watch all 5 productions of one song live. That is silly.
He would stop it after the first verse.
Oh.
And then the crowd would be going crazy.
Uh-huh.
And then he did it all over again. And it was considered like a very big punking of Drake.
I'm sure.
You should. I'm telling you, you missed it last night. I should have notified you, Chad.
You yes.
Tell Doc whatever's on TV right now, we've got to change it to Amazon Prime.
You need to know. Yeah, you know me. I always want to know when there's a rap battle at hand. So please let me know next time.
It was like a rap coronation more than anything.
A rap coronation.
Bloods and Crips doing Crip. It was unity. As Bomani Jones said, they need to give Kendrick Lamar the Nobel Peace Prize.
Wow.
He was able to bring LA together in ways that somebody said, does this mean I can wear my Cincinnati Reds hat anywhere in LA if I want to? I was like, oh, no.
Yeah, probably not. I was going to say he gets the award, but only if they all left their hatred on that stage, which I'm guessing is not. It
doesn't sound like anybody got killed on the way home, which means it's already ahead of most Dallas Cowboy games.
Small victories. Small victories.
You know what I'm talking about. You go to a Cowboys game, and on the way out, NFL fans just have a way.
That's horrible.
Of getting into fights. Simple as that. All right. We're playing a game of Hotter Than.
Okay.
Buy or sell. 38 years ago, Karate Kid 2 came out. You believe that Allie from Karate Kid 1 hotter than Kumiko, Karate Kid 2.
This is an interesting battle. I like this one because it's not the elite of the elite Elizabeth Shue for me. Allie's just cute, turned up to 10, but how hot is she versus Kumiko, who obviously just had a whole different vibe going on. The look, the face, the smile, the hair, the kindness. Man, there's a lot going on. Thinking of Allie in the arcade. Kumiko's up there when the drums are going and everything is there.
Never forget that Kumiko could stare you into submission. The look when she's with Daniel.
Yeah.
They're doing the drum ceremony thing.
It really is an eyes versus smile battle is what we have on our hands here. That really is the strength, I think, of each woman at that time. I have always been more of a smile guy, so I'm going to buy, and I'm going Allie. But it's close. I had never thought of it, but Ketch, they're both extremely attractive. But I'll lean towards the smile just barely. Just barely. I'm going with Allie.
I am Team Kumiko.
Okay.
Partly because she didn't have sex with a UCLA football player.
Yeah, that's true. They did find an easy way to throw that character away, didn't they? Boy, Karate Kid 2 figured out, how do we get rid of Allie? I don't know. Let's do a throwaway line that'll take like 8 seconds. Boom.
All you do is have to hear that, and you're like, oh, F you, Allie.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to have anything to do with you ever again.
Hey, you didn't ask me who Daniel should have married after part 2. You just said hotter than, so I got to go with Allie.
I don't understand how he doesn't marry Kumiko.
I know.
How does he leave Japan? He risks his life because he loves Kumiko. What happens?
I know.
That leads him to leave that island without Kumiko. It doesn't make any sense. It is one of the great flaws of the entire Karate Kid series that we find him in Karate Kid 3 with no Kumiko. What's up with that?
I think there's still at least a season or 2 of Cobra Kai I need to catch up on. So
Brought
maybe
her back in the last season.
I know she. I think did I see that one? I know they brought back like everybody. I think we're caught up. Yeah, she's beautiful. She's beautiful. That's a good one.
I mean, she's still fine.
Man, all right, there you go.
I think we were doing real time. She's going to beat Ali Sheedy considerably, or not Ali Sheedy, but
Elizabeth Shue. Yes. There you go. All right. Starting buy or sell with Jesus and Zeus. I figured he would end with it. He started with it. That's how strong his buy or sell was. All right, Catch, you good? We ready to close the door?
Racing Guillory real fast.
Yes.
I don't think it's a huge deal. It's a big running back. First of all, sometimes unless you're a quarterback, maybe it's just too early for a guy like that to commit. But the Longhorns are also recruiting Tredarian Ball from Texarkana. He might be the best running back in the country. And I think Texas leads for him. So
Maybe
I
not
think,
crushing.
I would tell Texas fans don't freak out.
Gotcha.
But I think the running back class in 2026 might end up being defined by a completely different player. And that might have something to do with why he's decommitting. It's a year where there are 3 or 4 really fantastic running backs. It's a much stronger year next year than it was this year. So, my initial reaction is,
Okay. Real quick before we get out of here, somebody says, sell Mama LaRusso. Good call, Rex. That's well done. This one says, Kumiko tells him she's going to the States for school near Daniel. Then she doesn't show. Oh, yeah. I guess that may have been it.
Sure. It's her. It's the girl. Classic Hollywood. Let's blame it on the woman.
It's the girl's fault. Cobra Kai season 6, 7/18. Not too far away, about a month away. All right. Did not realize that. Thank you. And
that gets that. It's always the girl's fault with Daniel.
Yes, right.
Now,
exactly.
Now I want to go back and inspect the Alley situation.
Yeah.
Did she have sex with a UCLA football player after weeks of Daniel not doing his part as a good boyfriend?
Yeah, I don't even remember that because the reconciliation was there. They had some conversation about it. I don't recall what it was though. I don't know if they ever talked about him. I don't remember. It's
hard if your relationship starts out with betrayal and slaps and spaghetti on the shirt and all. Yeah. Like it's tough to think that that's forever.
Yeah, that's fair. If it starts with some of those.
But what I would argue is if you battle to the death in another country in front of a room full of people, that feels more forever to me.
Yeah, that does feel. I agree with you. It felt more real in part 2. I would agree. All right. Thanks to everybody for jumping in today. Catch, is there a modcast at 4:00 this afternoon?
No.
No modcast today.
Just
okay.
Decided.
What's that?
I just decided.
There you go.
Just Alex and Anwar are both out. And I'm lacking motivation.
The boss just made the decision, which means we'll invite you to check out Orange Bloods Live, all the stuff that's there, the recruiting show from yesterday, going over each of the visitors, Jason Sukamel going down the list of all the visitors that's coming in this weekend. Check out orangebloods.com, all the content that is there. Since it is Thursday, what does that mean, kids? It means it's War Room Night at orangebloods.com. Check it out. There's your QR code. Get signed up as we get ready for the first season for Texas in the SEC. I'll leave it up there as we close the door. Anything else, Catch? Are we done?
We're done. Goodbye.
Right. There you go. Like, subscribe, get your notifications. Thanks for your support. We'll be back tomorrow at noon. Until then, we are house divided. He's
Chad.
Catch. I'm Chad. Yes.
A solid 83 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's no doubt. No doubt. No doubt. No doubt. 83 minutes. Jesus.